sharing one another's beliefs, thinking, and spirituality. Find someone that's going to charge you, and hopefully at this group, if we're doing things that we shouldn't be doing, we can charge one another to advance. And Dietrich Bonhoeffer, a theologian, and he was killed in the Nazi prison camps. We must be ready to allow ourselves to be interrupted by God. How many things are we doing that there's so much noise and there's so much going on in our lives? Jesus is tapping us on the shoulder saying, later, I don't have time right now. And God could be screaming, he could be whispering, but if we don't stop and listen, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We must allot that time for him. Jesus had to get up early and go pray. And if he had to get up early and go pray, and it seems like some people say, oh, I'm a night person, da-da-da-da, but I don't know. If I don't get it done in the morning, there's a really slim chance of it happening in the evening. Something happens in the evening. There's always stuff, there's people. So I would suggest, first off, get to bed early. That's the key. It's not you have to get up so early. When people say, I get up at 5 o'clock every day. What time do you go to bed? Well, if you went to bed at 9 o'clock, it's no big deal. It's good that you're getting up at 5, but don't act like you're a martyr because you're getting up at 5. You went to bed at 9, right? And that's good because you're getting your rest and you're getting up early. So that's the key. I hate this getting up early. Nope, you got to rephrase that and say, I need to get to bed earlier. And then getting up early is not that big a deal. Now, sometimes when there's kids involved and all that, it's not as easy as it sounds for some others. All right. Now, how to be servants. Serving one another through accountability. He brings that up. Mr. Matt and I have a unique relationship, and we don't talk every day or even every week. But he's a guy that I go to him, and he comes to me, and we are accountable to one another. And we talk about the deepest, darkest scum in our lives and share and say, I'm working on this. This is stuff that I need to work on. Pray me through this. Help me through this. And I'll often laugh about when you have that accountability partner, and I've shared this story before, but one time I'm in a place where I'm looking out a window, and there is a woman sunbathing topless. And I take a look, and I know I'm not supposed to be looking at that, but I've got this little urge to run right back there and take another peek out that window. And it's a Saturday afternoon, and guess who gives me a call right before I take the second peek? It's Mr. Matt. He never calls me on a Saturday afternoon. Never. Is that a God thing? Yeah, it's a God thing. Is it because we have this accountability thing going on? Yes, he picked Mr. Matt. Mr. Matt didn't realize that the Holy Spirit nudged him, and God nudged him at that moment. He just thought, yep, I just wanted to call Dan. He calls me at that exact moment. And I claim that miracles are really not so much about the actual occurrence being a miracle as much as it is the timing of the occurrence. Right? Mr. Matt calling me is not a miracle. Mr. Matt calling me at the exact moment that I'm supposed to be accountable and not take that second look, that's a miracle. The one time I was on business, and when I worked for the nuclear industry, I had to miss all kinds of holidays because the nuclear plants shut down during the holidays because that's the least power drawn from the cities and the communities, so that's when they shut down, when they don't need that extra power. And so I would be there over the holidays. So I'm in Dothan, Alabama over Thanksgiving. And normally our tradition is, I can't remember not going to Aunt Cedie's and having the turkey dinner and the apple pies and the pumpkin pies and all that good stuff. Family and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm whining and I'm moaning and I'm complaining because I'm in Dothan, Alabama. And I had to go to this smelly bar to have my Thanksgiving meal. And I'm saying, this is pits, man. And so I'm whining and moaning and saying, Lord, why do I got to be here in Dothan, Alabama? So I throw my Bible on the bed, and it opens up, and the first place I look down, it says, let us go to Dothan. And I looked it up. There's only 2 mentionings of Dothan in the Bible. And I said, okay, God, I listen, I hear, I'm supposed to be in Dothan, you know I'm supposed to be in Dothan, and I humbly accept this. Now, is it a miracle that Dothan is in the Bible? No. Is it a miracle even that the Bible just opened up on the bed? No. Is it a miracle that it opened up to Dothan, Alabama, and it's only one of two occurrences in the Bible at that exact moment? They're not complaining about being in Dothan, Alabama. That's a miracle. Okay? And that's God speaking. And I think a lot of times, if we're hurrying and we're running, we miss all that stuff. We miss it. There's a miracle occurring, and we're just passing it by. We're not seeing it. So we need to slow down and think about that. And serving one another through forgiveness and reconciliation. I know if you've been married or are married, forgiveness is a regular part of your daily, maybe weekly, maybe monthly, whatever it is, it's part of your life. And so I know I've never been blessed to have a marriage, being married, but I've dated some ladies, and then I thought that I've been wronged, and I've been through a last situation, and I had to forgive, and it was something that, wow, I'm not used to that, because I usually get along with most people, and when I had to forgive and felt that I was wrong, that's just a good thing to do, and so we need to get into that forgiveness. All right, and so I'm going to wrap up by talking about, that's my timer. So I'm going to wrap up talking about that change in our thinking. How do we do that? How do we go about this transformation, getting into community? We have some practical steps that Keller talked about. But I see in the Bible there's a theme talked about the path. And the Hebrew word is darak, D-A-R-A-C-H. It's the path one habitually treads in life. And it says in Nehemiah that that's my path. It's my path that I'm going on in my life. And then in Proverbs it talks about making our paths level. And do we want to be going up and down, running up and down all the time, and in our emotions? And I think this is kind of a metaphor. How can I make my path level? Well, it's interesting that in these books I read on subconscious, they talk about neural pathways. Okay? We form neural pathways. And I remember we were talking a lot last week about how we have these patterns and these habits that we're locked into. And so when we do that, we got to break those. So we got to make level those paths. We got to make them straight. I know when we would take canoe trips with the boys that I'm with, if you've ever done canoeing, you know that the person in the back has to use what they call a J-stroke. Because if you don't paddle in and then swing this out, what happens is the canoe just sort of zigs and zags. So instead of doing a 12-mile trip, if you're zigging and a zagging down that river, okay, it ends up being an 18-mile trip. Because you shouldn't have to go back and forth like that, but if you don't use the J-stroke, you're not making straight your path. So there's some effort required. It's not going against the tide, but it's just a little inclination, it's a nudge to get that path straight. So we have to make that effort to do that. And it says in Psalm 23, He guides me in right paths for His name's sake. So the Lord's guiding us, but we still have to make the path straight. We still have to make the path level. And we do that through working our habits and our patterns that we have in our brain. Try to change those around. Identify the bad ones, and then integrate and transition to some good ones.